back, everyone, to another episode of Wichita Vice.
Yes. Here we go.
And just flipping through these pages, it's Captain Chris with a K.
Straight from the Fortress of Solitude, it's the off-brand Superman, Marquez Christopher Eason.
Comic book to comic book, character to character. We at Wichita Vice brings the term comic book nerd to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Where being a comic book nerd is just sensational. Welcome to Wichita Vice. This is your host, the rated R comic book philanthropist superstar, DC Marvel comic character reviews host, Carlos in the house. Need a little validation.
Yeah.
Need a little validation. Well, you guys, we're going to dive into Daredevil and the villains as well. Before we dive in, let's go ahead and take a quick pause and thank our following sponsors.
Hey guys, why don't you check out She Barber Cuts Barbershop and give Markeisha Brown, the licensed professional barber there, a call at 316-218-3566 for all your haircut needs. She's got cuts for kids, adults, and for those looking for the good one, the deluxe with beard trims, wash, and hot towels. So don't forget to give Markeisha a call at She Barber Cuts and see her at 2319 North Ridge, Barber Suite 6A here in Wichita, Kansas.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. So, before we dive into our characters, we're going to talk about Daredevil. We're also going to do a little bit of a sneak peek giveaway for the Thunderbolts. Also, for sports fellas, we are back. We're going to have our Chuck's Dugout Major League Baseball giveaway from Rally House. So, before then, let's go ahead and take a quick pause and thank our following sponsors.
Yeah.
With spring here and all the storms on their way, you need to make sure you have the proper home, auto, and all your properties insured. We here at Razor Cut Information just can't get enough of our favorite insurance man, Ernie Ruelas. Please visit Ernie and his State Farm agency at 11330 East Central Avenue, Suite 400, Wichita, Kansas, 316-682-2300. Thank you so much, Ernie.
We're going to kick it off with the villains today.
Ooh,
first up, we have Kingpin. His name is William Fisk.
Wilson.
All right. It was created by Stan Lee and John Romita Sr. His first appearance was in Amazing Spider-Man, issue 50 back in 1967. His powers, he's a master tactician. Also, he wears a Kevlar, how do you say Kevlar, right? Kevlar suit weapon. Also he's skilled in judo, and I don't mean Steven Seagal judo. I'm talking about the real judo.
That's Aikido.
Whatever.
Sorry.
He's bullshito.
Okay.
We keep it friendly here. Marquez, you have the floor. Tell me about Kingpin.
The Kingpin is a heavyweight criminal mastermind. He and I mean heavyweight in all aspects of that. He's like 6'7", 450 pounds. Right. They say it's solid muscle though. He's just a big guy. He's built like a power lifter. And he actually controls 50% of all organized crime on Marble Earth in the 616 universe. He originally was a Spider-Man villain, but I felt like, over the years, they kind of said, okay, you know what? Spider-Man's rogues gallery. He doesn't really fit into the, he doesn't have any special powers, but he is immensely strong and ruthless. And he's a very brutal fighter. He's like you say, he's a tactician, and he applies his brutality. It's frightening the way he does. I mean, he gets mad and he breaks everything, including bones.
Yeah.
Now I like to discuss this, like the contrast between the show Kingpin and the comic book. I think Vincent D'Onofrio is his name, the actor. Mm-hmm. He did a really good job bringing that character to life. He actually did. I remember back when Michael Clark Duncan played him with the Ben Affleck Daredevil back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I mean, did you guys?
I thought it was good, like a physical imposing, but that whole movie was such a campy comic style. I thought everything was just tongue in cheek. I felt like even though Michael Clark Duncan fit the imposing presence, like physically, the lines, the plot, just to me didn't really.
Okay, go ahead, Carlos, because I got a lot to say about that.
Well, the thing is that rest in peace, Michael Clark. The deal is that with his character, when the final scene when Ben Affleck looked like he was struggling because his arthritis was kicking in, he finally got to the stairs, and you see Kingpin just looking there, and he's I'm in Brooklyn, I'm like, okay, and just beat Ben Affleck to a pulp. Yeah. But overall, in that time, even though that movie wasn't that great,
No.
I feel he did all right, this character. But when Vincent D'Onofrio came in, it was exactly how he needed to be. Just a presence was just so menacing.
And that's the thing I have to say about the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie. It was the script. I mean, the dialogue that they had to work with, I thought was just so terrible. Yeah. And so I felt like when Daredevil came out, they could have done so much more with what they had. Now, me personally, as you know, Marvel, as Daredevil goes, I was never a fan of the character per se. In the regards, like, okay, I got to go get a Daredevil comic. I always liked the comics that he appeared in.
Sure.
Always thought that, you know, when he would show up, like say one of our heroes would get in trouble with the law, you know, Matt Murdock was there to defend them and stuff like that. I always thought that was a really cool dynamic to play off of okay, here's this guy's other life. He has, you know, because typically when you have alter egos with superheroes, people don't really care about their human, you know, their regular life. They just only care about the persona of their superhero, you know. And Daredevil, to me, though, I always liked him as a lawyer. Just the fact that, you know, the law could kind of get you everywhere you needed to be. You know, hey, well, this guy got a parking ticket he didn't pay. You know, Peter Parker, he got, you know.
When he really uses. Well, I guess we'll get to Daredevil.
Yeah.
But I do.
But Kingpin, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, because he had he was just one of those villains that, you know. Typically, there's two types of villains. If you guys watch, remember the movie Unbreakable, when Mr. Glass kind of described it, he broke it down into two forms. He said there's the soldier villain who engages the hero on his own turn, like a fisticuffs, right directly. And then there's the mastermind villain who engages you. You know, he hires people, he brings henchmen in. You know, he's behind the scenes doing everything. The Kingpin is both.
Right. That's what I was going to say. I really like that he's not just like that. He can fight when he needs to. Yeah. But he's kind of the last one to fight. Like, he's once you've made it through all my cronies, and I feel like when you look at, you know, he was created what was 60s, 67.
Yeah.
Like you're talking kind of nearing the top of the mafioso running New York.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of this combination of all the different mob bosses throughout the ages, and not only in his wisdom and his machinations, but then he also has this physical, like he has the brutality of of a Gotti. He's got the wherewithal of how to do all the back channel stuff of an Al Capone. Yeah. The brutality of the Godfather, like the horse in the, you know, horse head in the make him an offer you can refuse type of guy.
Yeah.
Like he's going that way. And then once you haven't done that, he's still going to come hit you upside the head if you get out.
Well, let's discuss about how that all came to be. I mean, from what we know as a kid, his father was a mobster. You know what I'm saying? He was a thief and doing side deals. And growing up as a kid, he was being bullied around because he was a big boy, and he tried to fit in, and he was kind of an outcast. So he wanted his father's admiration and validation. So as he's growing up, he was doing side jobs with his dad. Well, in the cartoon series, if people remember back in our day, remember the 90s Spider-Man? Yeah. They did such a great job on that. Where you see a scene where the dad and him were doing some work, and then the dad went up on a ladder
and left him there and said sacrifices must be made.
Left him hanging. Sacrifices must be made.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Paid his time, got educated, learned. I mean, he did the whole work. So then when he got out, he worked from the ground up, fortified himself into his empire. And to get him away from the past, what did he do? Remember, he called in his dad. Dad came in. Oh, Willie, you made it. And he's like, no. You remember when you left me hanging? Now you got to go. And remember, they don't show him killing him, but you got the hint. Yeah. When the henchmen grabbed him, they took him away.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal. For a kid's cartoon to kind of touch on that. I remember watching that going, oh man,
where's he going? The nursery.
Yeah.
So then, so eventually him and Spider-Man, as Chris elaborated, Kingpin always had everyone else did the work for him. And especially in the comic books, he was just a menacing force. And then so when Spider-Man decided, hey, you know what? I know you're a bad guy. I'm going to go after you. This guy breaks off of him.
Yeah.
I mean, Kingpin, just brute force. I mean,
I thought the Kingpin in the Miles Morales story was pretty cool too.
Oh yes,
like that version of Kingpin.
Yeah,
kind of going to the Spider-Man. I mean, honestly, I think Spider-Man more outgrew Kingpin than Kingpin outgrew Spider-Man. Like Spider-Man became a global superhero rather than a local. Over time. Whereas like Daredevil, that's why I think Daredevil started to step up with him and all those more street level guys, because that's where Kingpin lives. He lives on the street. He controls the streets. That's his whole, like, he's the Kingpin of all the street, of all the gangs, of all the mafias. Like, he controls all that. And so once you get those characters that are, not that they don't have their run-ins here and there, but usually it's not necessarily of his machinations.
Well, think about it. He's an entrepreneur as well. I mean, think about it. He's putting bad guys on payroll. So, I mean, he's stimulating the economy. In other words, he's giving everybody, 401k plans. And he says, hey, Bullseye, you need a job? Gotcha. I need to upgrade my mafia and crime syndicates. Goes in with the hand as well. And so in the comic books, he just starts opening up new channels for the superheroes to go after him. I mean, the main three you can think of: Spider-Man. He's had his run-ins with the Punisher. He's had his run-ins with Daredevil, and then association with the Hand. That creates another new channel of stuff, in which they showed that in Daredevil season. Was that season 2?
Season 2 on the Netflix series.
Yes,
I believe so.
As we can see later on, these characters, he has his hands involved in a lot of things, and so. Overall, his main objective is like what Chris said. He's trying to eliminate and control. That's what he does. And in these comic books, he flourished in one of my favorite Daredevil comic books, Daredevil Born Again.
I was going to say, I really like how that's connected and stayed pretty true.
Yeah.
And it kind of mirrors life.
Yeah.
As far as when that came out, and as different government things have changed.
Yeah.
But he's trying to clean up his act. Like, that's kind of like, it's not just a Daredevil Born Again, but in that comic, it's also the villain is also being born again, like going through their same up and down, same as Daredevil's going
almost simultaneously.
Right, which I think is a really cool like parallel between those two characters. But I think that it just shows like Kingpin is that villain, like he's the hero of his story, like Lex Luthor, like everything I'm doing for humanity. His is more street level than Lex Luthor's per se, but he really think, like, even before he had this Born Again deal, like he was still like, I'm doing this to make things better for the people that were like me when I was a kid. Like, he's got this notion that he's trying to fix things, and he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about his, as he, of course, a guy can't be lonely forever, when he meets Vanessa, his wife, and how she's trying to get him to change. And then also they portrayed very well in the Netflix and this new series as well. Yeah. How do you feel Vanessa was portrayed in this, in the show?
Me personally, I like the character. I like the where they're going with where they were going with it in the Netflix series, but I don't know what her angle is here in the
well, in the comic book, remember, they go to Japan because she loves him. She's telling him, hey, I want you to quit the gang life. Right. I want you to get rid of that, start clean. Let's go legit. Kind of like Carlito's way in a sense. I want you to go legit.
That's pretty good reference.
Which that's what they're trying to do. But in exchange, they said, hey, you know what? The DA is like, hey, I'll do you a deal. I'll let you go off scot-free, but you need to turn in the files of all the mafiosos that you've been dealing with, everybody. And so
that's a Whitey Bulger little.
And so that you would assume Kingpin wouldn't do that. There's no way. That's breaking the code. Yeah. But his wife's telling him, you got to do this. This is a great opportunity. Yeah. Don't let it pass. And so then what happens is, guess what? The mafia catches up to them, kidnaps Vanessa. He goes berserk.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He's about to go throw down on everybody. And so again, it gets Daredevil back in the loop. So for him to go to get legit again, he gets represented legally. And you know who he hires? Murdoch.
Yeah.
He hires Foggy in the game. And so that goes to show, like, hey, I'm trying to go legit. And so, and also in the other comic book, he becomes the mayor.
Yeah.
We know that. Yeah. And then at the time, his who is his former his assistant mayor is Matthew Murdock.
Matt Murdock.
Yeah, Matt
for,
Murdock
for
as
a
well.
very brief moment. And that's the thing about that. Like I say, you guys mentioned Born Again. And one of my favorite Daredevil stories was called Guardian Devil by Frank Miller and John Romita Jr., I believe. I think that's the series where Karen Page actually dies. They actually show her die in a very horrible, graphic way. They actually, no. Yes, I'm sorry. Give me a minute.
In the comic book, right?
Yeah, in the comic book.
Because Bullseye kills her.
Bullseye does, but she was so strung out on every different drug you could think of, and Matt Murdock felt like he failed her. He felt like he, if he, woulda, coulda, shoulda, the guilt ate away at him, and that's when he quit being Daredevil for a while. He grew the beard and everything. Now, Vanessa in the series, I always thought of her as kind of like a peripheral character. I didn't think she would have that much of a big role, but this time she does. She actually runs the mob. I don't know. It'd be hard for them to go to you guys think they're going to go with that story or something similar? Like they're going to go back and say, hey, let's go off to Japan, and then the whole, because he had to know that would have consequences if he turned his back on the rest.
No, I think she's in it. I think she's in it. I don't know. It seems like she's...
Because she's doing illegal, and during the show, I know she's doing illegal runs. The paintings and things.
But I think she's like giving it like, this is what it takes, and this is what we're doing.
Yeah,
she's just trying to raise her stock portfolio. but overall, to kind of summarize with Kingpin, he's very underrated. He's a great villain, and like what Chris said, I loved him in that Miles Morales. That was great.
Yeah.
Vincent D'Onofrio, well played in the 90s comic book. As long as he wasn't, I wish when he was gathering the Sinister Six, I loved him there. He got everybody together and telling them, hey, this is what we need to do. I didn't care for his assistant, that kind of mutant looking guy. He was just a waste of time. I don't know what that was going on.
But they had to, it's the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, it's the Marvel Universe.
So
I
they
gotta
have to
just deal with it. But okay, well, that wraps up Kingpin. Move on over. We have Bullseye.
Yeah.
Ooh, he's one of my favorite Daredevil villains. He was created by Mark Wolfman and Bob Brown. His first appearance was Daredevil issue 131 back in 1976. His powers are, he's a master marksman, lethal assassin, martial artist, and he has animanium surrounded in critical key body parts. Marquez, tell me about Bullseye.
Yeah, he's 6 feet, 200 pounds. That's exactly my body's dimension.
Your ego's big.
No. No. Actually, I think I shrunk a little bit over the years. But anyway, no, he, like you say, he's a master marksman. And Hawkeye, all the characters, and let's say DC's Deadshot, all the characters that have like the marksman like that as their center skill, they're always I love how they make them so lethal with it. It's like
one shot kills.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's like there's really no way, if he has you in his sights, you're gone.
He just doesn't miss.
Yeah, and
with anything.
I have to say though, guys, I got to talk about his original costume. Like I say, I mean, it was the 70s. But like he's a target. It's like he has a target on him. So
he walked into a target. There's Bullseye.
But was it worse than the?
You better not say Colin Farrell.
No, he branded himself. He just branded himself, and I thought, okay, come on, guys.
Yeah, that was so bad.
But like I say, the whole marksmanship thing—that's a pretty good angle. I mean, the fact that he is so good at marksmanship, he can hang with people who are super powered. And a slight history lesson, guys. The term bull's eye came from cruel Spanish archers who would shoot cows, and when they hit the cow or the bull in the eye, they call it the bullseye. That's where it came from. So it's
something new every day.
So the character's name, it's not just it's bullseye. It's just something we call it. No, that actually has a very horrible history of animal cruelty behind it. But anyway,
well, he definitely is a kind of a sadist, like just a cruel,
and that's
cruel person.
That's what I was going to say. He actually likes to watch. He actually enjoys hurting people. He actually derives pleasure from hurting people. Just the psychology of a character like that, and the fact that he's, I don't know, on a nemesis scale, a lot of people call him Daredevil's nemesis, but on a nemesis scale, I would probably give him like an 8. Right. I think Kingpin is more, like I say, that one when I was talking about the soldier villain, the one that engages.
Right,
that's his thing. But
right.
I thought when I was thinking of a nemesis, I was thinking that Kingpin would be,
It's right up there because overall, Bullseye lusts for just to kill Daredevil. I mean, think about it. Look what he's done. He killed Elektra.
Yeah.
He killed Karen
Page. He just went on a rampage.
And his character overall, his drive is to finish out Daredevil, and he can't beat him. And so it going back in
history.
So he
just tries to hurt him.
Right. We can't say per se, because there's multiple stories on his upbringing, and I know that Frank Miller, the version I like most, if it is true, which we don't know, I like the story where he became an orphan because his parents were killed. I like that one. Then he got taken over adopted parents. They put him into sports. He was great at baseball. You had multiple offers. Went to the minors, then went to the majors. Almost had a no-hitter, but didn't want to do it no more because he was bored. And supposedly told the coach, "Hey, I don't want to do it no more. Put me out." And then the batter told him, "Oh, well, you're shaking up. You scared?" And he says, "Oh yeah." Bam, he got him. And that's when he said, "Bullseye."
Yeah.
And beat him.
And so then afterwards, he killed him. No, he killed him.
Yeah.
And so then afterwards, going forward, after his charges were dismissed, which he must have had a great attorney, don't know who.
Yeah.
Then he works for the CIA, gets a little crazy during that time. So then he's kicked out, and then he just becomes an assassin fire. And then what do you know? Job opportunity with Kingpin. And so then Kingpin becomes his number one employer.
Sure.
And so a lot of opportunities there. And like I said, he did a lot of work for Kingpin. But let's talk a little bit about his sinisterism. Overall, what makes him so diabolical is, to me, like I said, that marksmanship.
Yeah.
Now, let's just expand on that a little bit with, we got to break it up a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the Daredevil Ben Affleck movie. Colin Farrell, for what it was, it's cheesy now, but back then, it got a point. Especially remember when he took that paper clip and he was like, what's that? Yeah. I'm like, okay, bro, that But when he did throw out those Chinese stars or whatever those things are called, that's okay. And yes, they followed the comic book when they killed Elektra Nachos' father and then killing Elektra with her own sai. I get that. That's cool. But the whole point was the Netflix show.
Yeah.
That Bullseye was great. Even though his outfit was kind of like whatever. But I take that any day over Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
There's no I mean, the Colin Farrell again, that whole just goes back to that whole movie of Ben Affleck's Daredevil was just a cheese fest. It was over the top. It was exaggerated to the point of just being absurd.
Yeah, and it hasn't aged well, I'll admit. Because at the time I remember having so much high hopes for that, just to see something. The fact that because Blade was a few years prior to that, and that was a hit in my opinion. I love Blade.
I have to ask you, were you more infatuated with that, or you want to see another Ben Affleck movie? I'm just trying to understand you.
No. Well, he has what's that movie coming out? He has
The Accountant.
The Accountant too.
Oh, yeah.
And The Punisher is where John Bernthal. So we got Daredevil and Punisher and a new movie coming out. No, I'm just messing.
Well, but look at it like this: his skills are so vast.
Yeah.
Remember when he was in the CIA, he got out, and you know what he was doing was during the Cold War and everything, he was training the Contras in Central America, in Nicaragua. And so then going forward, it was kind of, robbing for Peter to Paul kind of thing. He was doing stealing from them, giving that back. So there was still a somewhat nice thing you're doing. But at the end, he knew the end game. It was a lot of money to be issued here. And he's training these guys how to fight, how to shoot, how to do the things they need to do, and then getting involved in the Colombian drug trade and this and that. But fast forward, going forward, his overall objective was that when it came to Kingpin recognized his work, and he told him, look, you're going to get a payout and a bonus, and guess what? I'm going to add more money on your portfolio. But you need to take out the Daredevil.
Yeah.
You need to take him out. And so Collateral Damage, everyone that Daredevil loved, who he was connected with, was going out.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he's a ruthless assassin. And I have to make one more point about the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie. It's like, okay, you remember how, like you were saying, Carlos, you just did like he would always go bullseye and then kind of almost references the target on his head kind of thing. Because back then, superhero movies weren't mainstream, so they had to kind of give you more of a reference than just a name. You know what I mean? It was like back in video games based on superheroes, they always said what they did because no one knew what the hell they were doing.
Well, and with that, they also took liberties. Like they didn't stick to the source material because they're like, nobody knows what we're doing. We do what we want.
Yeah.
And because of that, it turned into bad cinema rather than sticking to an actual comic book storyline, because now you have a disjointed storyline and bad writing to try to fill in spots because you didn't use the writing that was already provided.
Yeah, that was.
Who was Marvel owned by that time? That Daredevil movie.
Oh, back then.
Was it Fox?
I don't think
it wasn't Sony. I don't think it was Sony.
No, I think it was like not Warner, maybe
New Line.
Yeah, maybe.
I have to look at that because I do have the DVD at home.
Well, we know that, and on another side note, we know that
it was a lower level. Is what
Daredevil. Well, Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner met in the movie, and they got married.
Off
that movie. Now, don't get me wrong. We'll talk about Elektra on our next show that we're going to do, because we're going to continue some of the characters. But Bullseye, over this character that played him, he was great. That was just
the new one,
awesome, and I got to give him credit for that. Well, you guys, that concludes the villain part of the side. We're going to talk about the heroes next, but before then, let's go ahead and take a quick pause and thank our following sponsors.
Are you ready to make your memories immortal? I'm talking senior pics, weddings, graduations, newborns, baby pics. See our friend Keegan Ray Photography for all your photography needs, the official photographer of Razor Cut Information. You can contact her at 316-213-2693 or find her at Keegan Ray Photos in the Metaverse. That's Keegan Ray, KEAGANRAY.photos for all your photography needs.
Moving on over to the heroes. We're going to start off with Stick. Stick was created by Frank Miller. His first appearance was in Daredevil back in sorry you guys, I can't even talk. I'm so excited. Okay, his first appearance was in Daredevil issue 176. A little bit about his powers here. He has telepathy, not strong, but there.
No.
Martial arts, and he has the power to drain. He can drain another person's powers.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, Marquez, let's talk about Stick.
See, that power drain ability, they never really touched on that in any show or any animated. Anytime Stick appeared on a screen anywhere, they never touched on that, and his mind control or anything like that, his sonic abilities, which is kind of a shame, because to me that adds a whole nother dynamic to it. Because his blindness. Stick is blind, by the way.
Right,
it doesn't work the same way Daredevil's does.
No, his is from birth too.
Yeah, he was born blind. Whereas Daredevil was only blind at 13, I believe he was. And Stick is just one of those characters that I kind of felt like they didn't really want to flesh out, because he was so much of an origin story character, like a mentor type.
Right,
and
he was just supporting that main character rather than being.
Yeah, and it's like when you have a hero's journey, every story that uses the hero's journey, the mentor either has to die or leave.
Right.
Or has a second part-time job as a janitor.
Yeah. But to the Stick in the Daredevil series on Netflix, I like the character.
I like the character, yes.
I like the actor that plays it, Scott Glenn.
Yeah, he was very cold, distant, and he kind of let Matt, kind of like threw him out there to the wolves and let him he basically raised himself, because Matt at that time was looking for a father figure.
Right.
And Stick was like, I'm not a father figure.
I make soldiers.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen him get a little more into his chaste background, like the background with the chaste, and not made him appear to be just kind of a solo roller. Is what it feels like. He's just the guy that just goes out and helps blind kids fight.
Yeah. Yeah. But as far as I don't know what category to place him as far as villain or hero. I mean, he's definitely that cold, distant, calculating guy.
Well, he's not afraid to kill.
No, he's not.
But
I mean, I still.
Punisher.
Yeah, and Matt resents him for leaving him. He's like, I needed more than just a trainer, and you, all you had to do was just be there from time to time, and you just, you knew my father died, you knew my situation, but you abandoned me after, I got attached to you, and that's, like I say, as someone who is obsessed with origin stories, I thought that the whole Stick character, wouldn't it be kind of cool if he would have stuck around and guided Matt and just kind of just always been there as this wise sage type of character, who kind of mentored and a confidant, right, that could contact with him and say, okay, we got such down on Hell's Kitchen 5th Street,
or see him like right, rise up in the ranks of the Chaste and then leave, and there's his lawyer deal, but now he's still got the association with that. And
somebody needs to do an alternate universe type of story like that.
Well, look what he's battling something that goes beyond anything. I mean, he's battling the hand.
Yeah,
that's that is tough. And to have these guys trained, Daredevil, Elektra, and the gang that's over here, and we'll talk about the Chaste later on. But in the meantime, Stick was just train these guys. I mean, this guy with his bow staff, he's out there, just confident, smooth, just fighting, and that's where Matthew Murdock was able to enhance his skills and getting him better. But over on the show, I just like how that Origins was coming to be. And the thing is that when Elektra was acting up, she was able to she was able to get trained by him, but at the end she got booted out like American Idol. Oops. Because she just was just too evil, just too bad. And so remember, she joined the Hand for a while, and so now you got this kind of like Anakin to Darth Vader kind of deal. Now she's just straight evil, straight fighting, straight doing stuff. But overall, Sticks stayed with the team. I mean, the Band of Warriors is Claw, Stone, and Shaft. There's the names out there. We'll talk about them later. But being in Hell's Kitchen and being around, Stick has always been that character that's just fascinating. And he's just, I'm glad that when Frank Miller took over the Daredevil character, he added more story behind the scenes, and I'm glad he was
more
brought.
depth to Daredevil himself.
That's what I was looking for.
I'd like to see them though give Stick more, because he definitely, I felt he was quite active as far as a fighter in the comic books. Like, he's not just a background sitting on the side mentoring. Like, he gets out there and he gets his hands dirty, so to speak.
Yeah,
he does a lot of killing. I think he kills Elektra at one point.
Does he?
Yeah, that's what my research said.
I mean, there's just a lot of forms that are going out, and like I said, during that time, Marvel was kind of in an identity crisis, and this is why all the switching up here and there. Frank Miller just finds a way to make everybody look better.
He's just a great storyteller.
He's just a great storyteller
and a great artist too.
Yeah,
he actually did.
Well. Anything else on Stick?
No. It's just a movie that Frank Miller did called Spirit years ago.
Oh yeah,
The Spirit.
Was fun.
Yeah, it was.
Was this?
I was not happy when.
Was there any correlation with Spirit with Sin City?
No, none whatsoever.
Okay,
it was
but same director,
the writer. They just let Frank Miller play with the camera and said, "Okay, here you go."
Was Alec Baldwin's Spirit?
I forgot who was the guy, but
you're talking about The Shadow.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's totally different.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, just had to bring that up.
Two separate wavelengths.
Yeah, you think?
Well, it brings us now to the main character, the guy that we're talking about, the man with what's his quote? What's his line?
Man with no fear.
Thank you. Fear. Daredevil. He is one of my favorite Marvel Knight characters. I'm glad I'm giving him justice, and we're going to talk about the Daredevil. He is created by Stan Lee and Bill Everett. His first appearance was in Daredevil issue 1 back in 1964. His powers are hand-to-hand combat, heightened senses, and advanced hearing. Marquez, please take it away with the Daredevil.
Matthew Michael Murdock. Real name, height 5'11", weight 185, eyes blue, which I don't know, some renditions have him with his eyes white, but
man, you took it to new levels. You said his eyes is blue.
Well, that's what
all right.
That's why he's always getting the ladies.
Charlie Cox would be very impressed.
Yeah. I always felt like it was they made his eyes white in the Ben Affleck series, and most of them in the comic, his eyes are white, but he says his eyes are blue, so it's like, oh, okay. But no, he got his powers. It was a chemical accident that drenched his eyes in like an experimental chemical that was being transported through Hell's Kitchen, and it took his sight, but it made his remaining 4 senses function with like laser sharpness, echolocation. The fact he's like you say, he was trained by the leader of the Hand, Stick. He's extremely agile. He's he has no powers other than his echolocation, but he has no physical powers, but it's just his martial arts training. And like I say, as far as like the character overall himself, I think he works best by himself. I don't think if you put him in a team, he really works all that well. I just don't. It's kind of like, he's a standalone character, and I think he always should be. Like I said, I always liked when he showed up as a lawyer and stuff like that, but I can't see him palling around with the Avengers or, jumping and mixing it up with.
I would hold on to that.
Okay.
There is a rumor.
I'll tell you. Okay.
I'll tell you. He might be in the Avengers Doomsday coming up. There is a rumor.
In what capacity?
I was going to say probably not in the actual hero capacity, but as just a character that pops on screen like he did, say, in She-Hulk.
Yeah.
Don't dare bring up She-Hulk.
And I'm not, guys. I'm not looking at it from a power perspective because he definitely can hold his own with some superpowered guys. It's just that the stories, from a narrative point of view, I think the stories that they have him in are so.
So you didn't like him in the
more,
Defenders?
Yeah, I like that show. I like the show per se, them coming to know each other and kind of getting to feel each other out and kind of like, okay, hey, we're all super powered people. Let's work together. We can work. We can do far more together than we can alone. So let's do this. And
well, yeah, he couldn't do it alone. But overall, tell me, Marquez. I got it because I have to ask you.
Okay,
let's go back to his roots. So our the guests, all our viewers and listeners can tell us about his upbringing. So tell me about his father, Jack Murdoch.
His father, Jack the Devil Murdoch. He was a boxer. They got. He was basically a fighter that was just relentless. They say a lot of people say he fought like the devil. He was just he would not up. Didn't matter what you did to him. He was coming after you, and he was there to hurt you. And that's how he got his name. Jack the Devil Murdoch. And then, of course, when his dad was killed, there's been a couple different takes on that about okay, he refused to throw a fight and he was killed because of that. Some people say it was one story had him being killed in the ring. I can't remember exact, but
I feel like the most common one I've heard is the first one you said there. He refused to throw a fight, and I thought that it was a young kingpin that
actually
an up and coming kingpin that was still on the hitman level, kind of.
Yeah, and they did that with the Ben Affleck.
That's okay. That's where it sticks in my
story
mind.
And when after Matt lost his sight, him and his dad made a promise. I'll start fighting again if you study, and if Matt would study, and of course his studies took him to being a lawyer.
Yeah,
and he had to read the Braille and all that to try to become a lawyer. But I think that's a pretty good dynamic because, like I say, his father was a mentor, and like I say, the mentor usually has to either die or leave.
Right.
And that's what he was wanting Stick to replace his father, and that was. To me, that was just a missed opportunity.
So tell me what happened to Jack the Devil
Murdoch. Like I say, there's one rendition. The most common story is that he refused to throw a fight, and he was killed because of it by the mob. Up and coming,
fixer.
And that's what they called an early kingpin, the fixer. that was his name.
Remember in the Michael Clark movie?
Yeah, he just pulled him up in a truck, and and all you see him is his big fist, and that was it.
Kind of reminds me of that Jason Voorhees movie, Jason Takes Manhattan, when that boxer was punching him on top of the rooftop, and all it took was that one punch.
And he knocked his head off.
KO.
Fatality.
That was just crazy. But growing up there, then when he's getting introduced to Sticks and he's learning to his heightened senses. But before we go a little bit further, now, I know this is something that has been brought up in the comic book community. They were saying on an offshoot that ooze and everything that Matthew Murdoch got hit with, it went down the drain, and that's what became the Ninja Turtles.
What?
Well, I'd actually read that Stick was based off of Splinter Or vice versa.
Yeah, vice versa.
Sorry, Splinter was a parody of Stick.
Yeah. I mean,
but no, there's no relation.
So guys, is his powers? Is it a mutant? Is Daredevil a mutant or no? Or is he a mutate?
He's a mutate.
Because
he didn't have the powers before. Before it was, and I thought that he had a little bit of a heightened physical strength and slightly better healing. At least in the newer stuff.
Yeah, he's stronger. He's slightly stronger than a normal human.
Like
he's
not like, say, Steve Rogers or anything like that, but he's stronger than your average person of his build, I guess,
he has Olympic level strength and agility.
I'm still I just got to throw it out there because it's just been bothering me. In that movie Daredevil, you remember when after he got out of his shower, a little weird deal, and then he was like counting his money. How much money was he? Does he really know? Did you see how he had it organized? Ben Affleck, he had it organized.
Yeah.
$5, $10, $20.
Yeah.
I said, what if he slipped the wrong bill? He took a $1 bill. Here you go.
They actually have deals for blind people to prevent them from doing that when they handle cash. Like
lesson learned now.
They fold each bill a certain way and things like that. Yeah.
And also, to quote Matt Murdock, there are other ways to see.
Yeah.
Carlos.
Noted.
There are other ways to see.
Okay, so now that we got that out the way,
what's this bill?
Let's talk about his suits real quick because that's also been a subject that wanted to be discussed. So when we know in the first edition, he wore the yellow sleeves, yellow legs, and just looked pretty corny at the beginning. But hey, it was back in the late 60s, so I understand that. But again, when Stan Lee told him, "Hey, let's go ahead and change that up a little bit and putting it in, Daredevil, the DD on there, and making him solid maroon," that was pretty dope. I like that.
Yeah,
it was pretty cool.
They had a few other costumes. One was this gray and red armored one, but Matt said it slowed him down. It gave him more protection, but it just,
And do you remember when Bullseye was wearing the outfit? So that was season 3, right? Where Daredevil went back to his just black.
Yeah.
Oh, and the cat and just like the
thing over his head, over his face.
I wasn't feeling that.
Yeah, and I knew he would eventually progress to the Daredevil we know, but I couldn't wait for that. And then in Netflix series, I was like, come on, guys.
He's got Wakanda outfit on.
Yeah. It'd be cool if he had vibranium.
Right. But here's the thing that I admire the most. It's the simplicity of his weapon, the buddy club. And then also as well, it's just the way he uses his surroundings in the atmosphere that he's in, protecting Hell's Kitchen. Because where it's all there in Hell's Kitchen, you see, especially the Punisher being involved. And then also Luke Cage is on what side? Luke Cage is on what side of?
Harlem.
Harlem. And then Jessica Jones is in.
She's also in Harlem. Yeah.
And what about
Iron Fist? I thought was in Queens.
Just all around there. It just kind of reminds me of just a little get together on the Defenders.
Burrow.
Now in Moon Knight. What about Moon Knight? Because he's
Moon Knight's global.
Yeah, I was just saying.
He's coast to coast.
Yeah, he's global. He does this.
Okay. So back to Daredevil. The way he has had formed these relationships, I do agree with Marquez. He's a lone wolf. You see him when he has to work with the Punisher, that can get out of hand. When he in the comic book series and cartoon, when he and Spider-Man, remember when he was helping Spider-Man out? That was kind of cool to see them two team up. Yeah. And then also the She-Hulk thing, I don't know. Was that even in the comic books or that was just a Disney deal?
Daredevil gets around. He has.
Those two had a relationship of, because they're both lawyers.
Yeah.
Daredevil. Like that's how they met, was in court.
Yeah, pretty much.
So,
but and that's kind of a thing. They made Daredevil in the comic where he had a lot of woman problems. I mean, all of them had woman problems, but not like Daredevil. Any woman that would say hi to Matt Murdock, he was like, "Oh, hey," that was just always his thing.
Kind of like Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, yeah. But no, as far as his social life is concerned, I mean, Matt Murdock, like I said, him being a lawyer, it actually puts him in contact with a lot of different people. Right. So it would stand to reason that he would have long dating life that was extensive. I mean, and I love the fact that he got together with She-Hulk and that okay, here's a super guy. Now I just said he plays better alone, but if you ask any comic book nerd, the only thing better than a superhero is a team of superheroes. But I feel like his personality, just the inner fight within him is just such. It's so internalized that it just wouldn't allow him to connect with anybody for too long.
I was gonna say he always winds up ending it. But other than Foggy.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't.
Yeah, but Foggy's not a superhero.
No, but I mean, he just doesn't stay around anybody longer than.
Because he's had his relationship with Karen Page, and also with because Elektra, they knew each other in law school, and so they became an item. And it's just that Daredevil overall, he's carrying a lot of pain. And then especially he thought for the longest time that his mother was dead. Then we found out in the Born Again comic book that she wasn't dead. She was a nun. And so that had him renew his faith and then of course that big epic battle between him and Kingpin, because Kingpin behind the scenes was demoralizing him, using just taking him to the core and just beating him, and then overall just continuous fighting and knowing that in this show here that Daredevil is dealing with not only with the Kingpin, but now he was dealing with Muse. Muse is a kind of an interesting new character, which we're going to talk about in the next show. But overall, he is just the reason why he's one of my favorite Marvel Knight hero, because he brings that dark balance.
Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
That's why I'm glad when Marvel Knights, when they were starting to introduce in, like I said, with bringing in the Punisher, bringing in Elektra, bringing in like Moon Knight and Jessica Jones, it's because they're getting away from that silliness characters. They're bringing in something that felt more realistic. And, I know you can't just, who knows? I don't know. But just there's certain things that Daredevil does. It's just kind of unique. It's just interesting to know that he uses his elements to do what he needs to do.
And I've really, really liked the way they've shot the Netflix series as far as from like a cinematography. Like,
me too.
It's just very really well good. Artistically. There's some scenes in it that are just amazing. Like, I still think it was the second episode of the first season. There's a continuous shot where he goes into a hallway, it goes into a deal, and it's just one shot camera of him just destroying this entire gang.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not that hero that just goes in and knocks everybody. Like, he gets his butt handed to him.
Yeah, he gets hit a lot.
A fair amount.
Yeah. And that's what we were talking about, is he's stronger, physically more durable than an average person.
Right.
Now I have a question for both of you guys, because a lot of people, this seems to be kind of something I went back and forth with in my head when watching Daredevil, or characters like Daredevil, as far as street level are concerned. Do you guys think that having powers, elaborate powers, like say on the scale of X-Men or the Avengers, do you think that it adds to the story or takes it away, or is it more how it's written? I guess what I'm asking is, is it the scope of the character's power, or is it how they use their power that makes a good story?
To me, I think it's how they use it, because you look at Luke Cage, that's a crazy big power that he's got.
Yeah.
Like, he's really strong and he's basically invincible.
But they played him down a little bit for the show.
They did in the show.
In the comic book, he's lifting tanks and beating people down with buses and.
But he still focuses on that street. Like, he's like, I care about my neighbor that needs help. Shaking a cat out of a tree.
Yeah, not world domination.
Right, yeah.
Not some kind of protecting the whole entire.
No, if he gets called, he'll probably go help.
Yeah.
But he's not looking to be out there saving the world.
No.
He's looking to save the world one neighbor at a time.
Yeah.
Which I kind of think. I think that's why those Defenders guys kind of linked up that way, because they're all like Jessica Jones. Like, I don't want to do that. I've done that, and it was bad.
Yeah.
And same thing with Matthew Murdock, and Iron Fist to an extent. His story obviously is a little different.
Yeah,
but
he's the youngest of the group. So.
But he still is kind of focused more. I don't know. Depending on where you look at it, he's focused a lot on money too. So, and can still be kind of crazy and silly. But he's still that good heart guy. But yeah, I think it's what they do with it.
Yeah,
and that's why. And I'm glad you brought that up, Marquez and Chris. He stole my words. Exactly what I was going for. It's okay. So you guys know Marvel. Iron Man is my favorite Marvel hero. Hero, and with Iron Man, he has, like I said, the resources. He has everything at his disposal, and that just fascinating. He can do all the things that he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
With Daredevil, and to answer your question, Marquez, Daredevil has his honest living. He's a lawyer, smart, articulate, just knows what he's doing to get on in life. He's not looking for the public eye or anything.
No.
So when he's doing all this, because he's protecting his community, that's what it is. Now, there are just certain things that go a little bit above his realm, like when he was dealing with going against the Hand. That was a whole different level. That was like, whoa. That being said, what fascinates me, and this is where I'm going. What fascinates me is that he takes the abilities that he has and brings it to real life situations.
Yeah.
That's the key thing. Sorry, I don't got the money to go make me a suit of iron and put all these gadgets and here I go. And I'm not a Spider-Man. I can, web sling, do all these weird things and go. Or I can't turn into a Hulk, or I'm a thunder god like Thor.
Yeah.
All that is a different level. What I like about Daredevil is he uses what he has, his training and his upbringing, to carry on what he does. And so when you're reading his comic books, it seems real to me.
Yeah.
And so that's why he's one of my favorites.
So it's more grounded, the less of a spectacle that the powers provide. Now, for me personally, I like the grandiose nature of superheroes per se, like taking them off the page and putting them on the screen. That it's actually that to me, because as a kid, that's all I wanted to see. I wanted to see what would this be like in real life. What would this be like if someone were to put this in another medium, like say a video game or a movie, and this now whatever. Now that they're finally doing that, it's kind of like, okay, cool. And I guess if I had to say, I guess there's really no one way that's better than the other. It's just interesting to me how a lot of people always want to draw that line as to, like, if they see someone on the screen shooting lasers out of their eyes, let's say for Superman, they say that, it takes the logical consistency and crosses over into logical absurdity or illogical absurdity. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that I've always felt like, where's that line at? How much can we get away with showing on the screen of these characters before people could say, okay, you know what, that takes me right out of the movie.
There is a part of that. There is definitely a part of that where, like, you see someone like Matt Murdock who isn't crazy super powered. You're like, oh, he's just like, his muscles are a little bit better, and and he's got this really like supersonic hearing thing, which some people say is a real life superpower.
Yeah.
Like, there are people that do echolocation, humans that use that are fully blind. It's a thing. Not to obviously Matt Murdock's extent.
Yeah,
and then you have someone like Luke Cage who looks like a normal. I mean, he's a big buff guy, but still looks pretty normal. A bigger guy, but doesn't look
like
absurd.
The Hulk or nothing like that.
Doesn't look like the God of Thunder.
Yeah,
just looks like a
because I've always
guy that works out.
Yeah, because I've always thought of, like, say, if She-Hulk were to show up in Daredevil, or if Thor, if we get to the point where they're showing like Iron Man and people showing up in the shows as guest appearances, would that take from the show or would it help the show? Like say if they bring Ghost Rider, another character who has a lot of fantastical elements to his character, if he were to show up in Daredevil, would that take from the show or would it add to the show, guys?
I would say take.
Really?
Okay,
wait. What capacity though? Like, say, okay, go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
Say if they did it the right way, say Ghost Rider broke a law and now was
Johnny Ketch.
was caught
Yeah,
or something somehow, and Matt Murdock's helping him, and they kind of team up.
Okay, but like I said, Carlos, that's
know.
what I always thought was cool about Daredevil in the comic. The fact that he would be a lawyer for heroes that maybe got caught up in some legal stuff and.
Be able to handle it.
I
Be able to handle it when the villains come after.
Yeah, so probably
Doctor Strange.
So that would take you out of the show.
It would take me out.
Okay.
Along the lines. Okay. Let me give you a little justice. What if he gets caught because he's battling Mephisto, or he's battling one of Doctor Strange villains, and he just happened to break the walls here, and he's like, "Oh, this is." Universes beyond me. All right, we'll stay on Earth.
Well, as vigilantes are being persecuted in MCU.
Okay, let's say Deadpool shows up. Someone who is absurd anyway.
Deadpool would definitely take it to the extreme.
I say, stick with the Marvel Knights
those characters.
Yes, Moon Knight.
As you're staying on the street level deal,
and even Jessica Jones, just right there.
Okay, even a reference to those characters though, because that guy even said, "Could the guy be a scroll?" They did reference. Okay, what about just a slight reference?
Part of those is same MCU.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying.
In the first one, they reference the first time it deals. They reference the attack on New York from the original Avengers movie.
Okay.
They also they've referenced already in the new one the blip.
Yeah, they did. You're right. They did.
So,
they brought that up.
Like,
yeah, you're right.
They're trying to keep the MCU somehow in the same universe.
Okay.
It's getting a little sticky with the multiverse.
It's owned by Disney.
Yeah, I think the most mild character that isn't his spectacle, and he has to show up as his human self, is Peter Parker.
Okay.
I think that's probably
we already saw in No Way Home.
I think as long as
that would be the most mild, toned down, and base level story with that character. With those characters.
One of the themes that you have running through all those same street level characters is there's like an investigator type detective situation that they're all falling into. Jessica Jones is a PI. Matt Murdock's a lawyer who does his own PI work.
Yeah, he does sometimes.
I mean, Luke Cage is trying to find out why why is his buddy's place being torn up? So there's the level of detectiveness that's goes into that I don't think you see with those big banger movies. I mean, obviously there's they're trying to figure out what's happening, but that's the story. But it doesn't seem like it's on quite that procedural type of deal. You know what I mean?
No, it's not.
Like take away the superpowers and the fights, and you basically have just a detective story in most of the cases. With your Daredevils, your Jessica Jones, Luke Cages, the street level type of deal. I think as long as you're staying close to that type of a storyline,
it's okay.
That it works and it works in there.
Yeah,
it's tough because I think they mess it up more than they get it right when they try to take from two different of type of scenarios.
Yeah, like Ant-Man showing up, giving Hawkeye technology.
Right.
That was okay. I get where you're going from. It was cool to see, but it's just
Well, you guys, that wraps up Daredevil. Let's go ahead and take a quick pause. Thank our following sponsors.
With spring here and all the storms on their way, you need to make sure you have the proper home, auto, and all your properties insured. We here at Razor Cut Information just can't get enough of our favorite insurance man, Ernie Ruelas. Please visit Ernie and his State Farm agency at 11330 East Central Avenue, Suite 400, Wichita, Kansas, 316-682-2300. Thank you so much, Ernie.
All right, you guys tune in to the Thunderbolts giveaway. We're going to be talking about the Thunderbolt characters. In that, we're going to give away a Marvel bag. It's going to contain 2 tickets to the movie Thunderbolts to the Boulevard Theaters. If you are our local winner here, if you are an out-of-town winner, we will send it out to you with a gift certificate and a t-shirt as well, you guys. We just want to say thank you out to our listeners, our viewers, showing us love and support. All we need you to do is smash that like and subscribe button. Give us some feedback. Talk to us about who's your favorite character. If you have any questions, we're going to tune in because we're all in this as a community. Any shout outs before we leave?
Just thank everyone for listening. Make sure you like, subscribe, and if you like what you hear, make sure you share it with your friends and family.
Yes, thank everyone here in the studio. I love you guys' work. Thank you all for listening. Love you guys.
Shout out to you guys. Much love as always. I do appreciate it, as well as our people from behind the scenes, Eric behind the scenes, Dobby Designs, and Pal. I want to give a special shout out to our local comic books here at Prairie Dog Comics, Hero Haven, and also the staff at Wizard Asylum. Thank you guys as well. I want to give a special shout out to a group of people that tune into our shows. Tom, you know who you are. Thank you for tuning in as always.
Thanks, Tom.
And also our friends Sierra, Christian, Blake. Thank you guys as well. I mean, I just appreciate that somewhere out there, there's someone out there that's listening to our show. And like I said, I'm a firm, thankful person that come from the bottom of my heart that we do this for fun. We do this because we just want to reach out, share our passion with you guys. So stay tuned. We're going to be doing Sports Fellas. We're bringing that back. We're going to have 2 new shows, so stay tuned on that as well. And we're bringing back the Cutting Crew and Anime Insomniac, and we are doing our Silver Cosmo movie reviews, our classics. So until then, we're out.